Okay, Mike.
All right, Sam.
We're gonna talk about AI again.
Okay.
A lot of our fans, a lot of comments on YouTube, they're like, more AI, please, more AI.
Yep.
I think some of them might have been AI bots.
I was gonna ask. I hear that they are really into AI.
They are. They're a little self-focused, but we got to give the fans what they want.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about the pitfalls of using AI in marketing.
Yeah, because last time we kind of talked about how there's great advantages to using AI and some of the ways that you can use it to leverage it in your marketing, to leverage it in building your brand. And I do think it's important that we understand that there's another side to that coin, that there are some major disadvantages. There's some pitfalls to what AI can and can't do, and also kind of where it can lead you if you let it, right? We talked a lot last time about how you need to infuse personality. Like, the tools are not there yet for AI to really understand your brand at a really deep level. And I think there's also some just intrinsic pitfalls of AI is not a human being. And as much as I think maybe some people want it to be, that's a whole nother conversation for another time, whether it ever will be. Personally, I'd be kind of weirded out.
That would be strange.
I don't think it can. I just don't think it's possible, but that's a more metaphysical conversation. But like it just is not considering people as people and people as relational beings and wanting to connect and make a relationship with them, create a relationship and sustain a relationship. And so I think as a marketer, that's one of the most major, basic, baseline kind of pitfalls to AI is that it does not have that in mind. As it's creating content, as it's creating imagery, as you're telling it to do things, it's really not thinking ahead to what your real goal is, which is long-lasting relationships, whether that's client relationships, whether that's staff relationships or recruitment or retention goals in your communication, whether that's referral partners and maybe others in kind of your mix of stakeholders that you're trying to build a relationship with. It just can't do that. It doesn't have that mindset. And so everything you do needs to kind of backfill that. You need to set up the structure. You need to lead in that. I think another thing that we talk about quite a bit in the article is just the set of values that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
AI does not have values. AI just has a repository of content that it is trying to draw answers from.
A very limited
a limited set of content, right? And I think that's another piece that we need to get into is just, you need to understand where these sources are, what they are, what it has access to, and then also what it doesn't have access to. And so I think there's a level of just knowing that like, there's gonna be some moral ambiguity to what it puts in front of you. We've seen examples where it actually will probably infuse a value-related statement that maybe actually not something you value, right? Or not something you hold to or believe. Or maybe totally disconnected from what you're talking about.
Or completely false, like just objectively false. And we've seen that a couple times. I was trying to get it to do basic math last week. Like I copied in some cells from an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh no!
Like, I wonder if it could do this.
I don't want to know this. I don't want to know this.
I put it in there. I was like, hey, add these up. What's the total? And it spat out a number. And I was like, that's not right. And I was like, that's wrong. Can you try again? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't get it right. Never got it right. I gave it like 10 chances.
I've heard similar stories.
Doesn't know basic math. This is crazy.
I've heard, I was talking with someone recently, a software engineer, who both works with AI some, but also is just very interested in it and trying to kind of test it, our friend John McCoy. And he was talking about how he's kind of run some tests with it to understand how it processes data, right? How does it process information? So he had fed it an article and had said, understand this article and give me a summary. And it spit back a reasonably good summary. Then he asked for like very specific facts from the article. And one of the facts was, how did this person, it was a blog or a series of blog articles, I guess he had fed it. How did this person die? The person who had written the blog at the end of this larger story about this person, they actually end up dying. And it would spit back answers. And each time he'd just rerun it. He wouldn't even say, no, that's incorrect, because it would be. The first one came back, he's like, that's not how they died. And then he'd just rerun it, and it would be like, try again. And every time it would not give the answer that was correct based on the content. And so it was like clear, like it'll try to answer things that it does not know truly what the answer is to. And a lot of that is, again, it's taking content and trying to simplify it and then give you answers. And he said one of the things he's found is that generally, especially with ChatGPT, it just doesn't know specifics. He even asked it, give me the first paragraph, like word for word, just give me the first paragraph of the article. It couldn't do it. It like had to summarize it every time, and it would remove detail.
And that's probably a safeguard, right?
Probably.
Like not wanting to plagiarize.
Probably.
I think another big element is AI is not creative, right?
No.
You can prompt it into some level of creativity, but I kind of liken it to like maybe 20 years ago when it was like, oh, there's all these like royalty-free stock images we can use, and I can pick whatever I want, get really specific. And now you can spot a royalty-free stock image from 10 miles away. And what has it been, like a year now since kind of ChatGPT and all those guys kind of blew up and everyone's like, oh, this is amazing. We're already starting to recognize it, right? Like, oh, ChatGPT, totally ChatGPT. Even, you know, with some of our clients and within our team, we're like, that sounds like ChatGPT. So we're already recognizing that, right? We're already recognizing kind of the AI style.
That's so fascinating that so as a marketer, if you're thinking about, oh, I want to use this tool to generate content, maybe to, you know, the other tools to put out imagery, the fact that each tool has a style to it inherently limits you in terms of your style, right?
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't line up with your style of your brand, then you might actually be finding that you have to do a lot of rework.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting that it's almost homogenizing content and it's homogenizing style, which is kind of the opposite of what we're trying to do when we think about like brand building. It's like we're trying to stand out. We're trying to be as specific and unique as possible, being true to ourselves as an organization, right?
Yep.
We want to be authentic, but being specifically authentic.
Yeah.
And if the tools we're using, if we don't understand that they're not going to be that specific, we might find ourselves losing in some of that fight to be very interesting and specific. And I guess there's hope. That means that creatives still have a job.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and like we said last time, as a creative, as a marketer, you need to learn how to harness AI. There are some great things about it. It'll speed up your job, but it's not going to be everything. It's not going to replace everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. It's not like you can sit there, write a prompt, and take the rest of the day off. You got to figure out how you're going to use it in your specific workflow, in your specific firm, and then just get better at that. Every time you use it, just get better at it. But like we keep preaching, your brand has to shine through. No matter how you're creating content, no matter how you're building your marketing flow, your brand has to shine through. You have to be authentic.
Yeah. That means you have to actually know what your brand is.
Yeah.
Right. And ChatGPT can't give you a brand.
No.
It's not that sophisticated.
No.
Maybe we'll build that someday. But there's no AI to give you a brand that really understands you at a complexity, a depth that you yourself as the marketer, working with your leadership team, bringing in the right outside resources, working the rest of your marketing team, really to understand, communicate, define, and put out into the world a really interesting, compelling brand that's actually true, right? I think that's one of the pieces that I think most concerns me about ChatGPT is that so much of it is just wisdom of the crowds.
Yeah.
So if you think about how much Twitter annoys you, or X, I guess we now get to call it, it seems to annoy everyone, right? Like it's just what's the truth? It's really hard to find. It's really hard to decipher. There's a lot of voices, a lot of opinions on every issue on the planet on a platform like that. And I think that actually is frustrating for a lot of people, right? Because it's like, I don't know what to believe. Everything's fake. Everything's misinformation or disinformation, right? Or I don't know. Is it or is it not?
Or opinion.
Or just opinion that's stated as fact.
Yeah.
These are the repositories that ChatGPT is pulling from. That's the answers you're gonna get, or the equivalent of like Twitter or the blogosphere.
Yeah.
Or any other like just pure opinion that's floating out there.
Yep.
I haven't seen either that it gives a lot of priority to like more valid sources. Yeah. I think another big challenge that I would put in front of anyone, some of the best content in the world is not on the internet, it's in books. Mm-hmm. And while I know companies like Google are trying to create archives of books, they're nowhere close to like capturing all of them. Yeah. And I don't believe ChatGPT has access to a lot of that. Yeah. And so I think like some of the richest, most like the deepest content you could be pulling from is still inaccessible to a machine. Yep. And there's, I think, a huge opportunity for marketers to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to whatever topic you wanna write about. Yep. I think there's huge value in just being, whatever field you're in. If you're in accounting, being as informed as the accountants in your firm, and maybe even more so, on the history of your profession, their profession, really. Yeah. Who has written really instrumental and impactful books over the years, or maybe academic articles. Read those. Yeah. Actually know those. And then even like the business side of that, like understanding the business of professional services, or understanding the business of growing an accounting firm. Yep. I think there's huge opportunity for marketers to really be really smart about the business. And there's a benefit maybe personally, if you want a greater seat at the table amongst your accounting partners in the firm, like that's the kind of homework you need to do if you want that. But even if that's not your goal, just to be able to come into a conversation, to write content, to create a campaign, to give direction to a creative, when like this is how a business like ours grows. These are the fundamental basic. This is our model. This is our business model. This is how we work. This is where the firm is heading. Here's our strategic plan. Here's the history of accounting. Here's how we got to where we are today, and where are we going, right, in the future? Where's the industry going in the future? I think most marketers I know of are very excited about those things. They love learning about the industry and where it's heading. I would even encourage you to think, where has it already been, right? And that might actually give you a point of view that is unique, or maybe a little bit more nuanced and deep than kind of your standard ChatGPT content that just gives you some of like the lowest common denominator content. Yeah.
So to summarize, I would say, remember who you're marketing to. It's not robots and chatbots and AI. It's people, it's humans. And don't forget your brand.
Yep. And don't forget, you are remarkable.
It's beautiful.